The feedback on my initial impressions video about this timepiece was really positive, and it is not surprising San Martin pushed the boundaries here again. They refined the design, the finishing, also upgraded the movement and completely knocked it out of the ballpark with this striking dial. This watch would make very uncomfortable not only San Martin's fellow competitors on AliExpress platform, but also macro brands as well as big brands with price tags 2 to 3 times higher. However, there is at least one area on this seemingly perfect watch that I believe could do with some improvement. And of course, more importantly, what did San Martin's sales team complain about when they saw my initial impressions video? Well, in this review, we will definitely find out. Hello and welcome back! We are steadily marching towards 20,000 subscribers. If you are not yet subscribed, well, do join the club by hitting the subscribe button over there, and we will get to 20,000 not only together, but faster too. And for the full disclosure, San Martin sent me this watch for review and I get to keep it. No money changed hands, which is a bit of a bummer because I'm not planning on selling this watch anytime soon unless I absolutely have to. And of course, all the necessary links where you can purchase this wonderful timepiece will be in the description of this video. Also, with the big mother of all sales, the 11/11 sale coming up in a few weeks, I would advise to plan your purchase a bit ahead of time to ensure that you really get what you're after. So in terms of the design, even though we have here a very classic 39mm stainless steel sport watch look, it is the attention to detail and the way the individual elements are crafted on this watch that make it such a good looking timepiece. We have here San Martin's latest clasp, new oyster style bracelet that seems to borrow some design cues from Grand Seiko, which is definitely not a bad thing. We also can say with a fair amount of confidence that the case is designed pretty much from ground up, specifically for this watch. And that is because instead of the usual Seiko H35, we get here a higher grade Miyota 9015 caliber, which also allowed for San Martin designers to make this new case comparatively slim, just a smidge over 10mm. And of course, we get this new gorgeous dial. What started as experimentation with different dial textures and materials and drawing inspiration predominantly from Grand Seiko designs now evolved in a San Martin's design language of their own. And like in this case, drawing on the rich century-old tradition of Chinese art of crafting and glazing porcelain. So, dimensions, as I already mentioned, we are looking at 39mm case diameter and 10.2mm case height. Lug width is 20mm and lug-to-lug distance is 46mm. And if we measure the protruding endlings, we still get a well-managed 50.5mm distance. On a fully supplied bracelet, this watch should cover wrists up to 8¼ of an inch or 21cm in circumference, and it weighs 137 grams. The case feels and looks quite elegant, not least because of the comparatively slim profile. This is what usually makes Swiss-made watches to stand out because of the slim Swiss-made movements. Well, San Martin now can take a full advantage of the thinner Miyota 9015 caliber here too. The quality of the finishing is very good, and we have a combination of brushed and high-polished surfaces. San Martin seems to be sticking to a pattern of brushed wider areas like flanks and top of the bezel, and high-polished smaller areas like bevels and thin side of the bezel. It looks to me that with this approach the high-polished surfaces are less exposed to scratches, and yet still there are enough reflective areas here to give the case a nice sparkle. There are no crown guards, however, the screw-down crown is noticeably recessed into the right flank of the case. The crown is signed with engraved logo and it is well proportioned and is easy to engage. Now, here is something we don't see very often on San Martin watches, and we will need to look at the back of the case for that. What we have here, apart from the specifications engraved on the perimeter, we also have embossed stamp that states in Chinese "Made in San Martin", and this engraving mimics the stamps on the bottom of the porcelain cups and plates made by ancient masters. In terms of the design, we have here a screw-on back case, which allows for a very credible and practical declared 100 meters of water resistance. An absolutely flat sapphire crystal is installed a fraction of a millimeter above the stainless steel bezel, as such enhancing bezel protection from scratches. According to St. Martin, there is an anti-reflective coating applied, and it definitely looks like there is. So there is as little as possible obstruction between us and this really good-looking dial. I think this dial is probably one of the best I've seen from St. Martin so far. Seriously, I think they could have just skipped most of the design upgrades on this watch and even put an H35 movement in the back of it, but this watch still would look very special because of this dial. In particular, the star of the show here is the dial background. It is made out of enamel with a pattern very closely resembling the glazing of the JianZhan porcelain. I'm pretty sure I've butchered Chinese pronunciation, so my apologies in advance. St. Martin offers this watch in 3 colorways: orange, red and blue, the one that I have here. The dial background has a fume kind of effect and fades to darker shades towards the perimeter. And interesting thing is that this dial looks good in pretty much any light. Even in a very dim, dull surroundings, this dial will still pop. Now, another interesting characteristic of this dial is that it is a bit of a chameleon. So, while it is definitely blue, it still tends to reflect slightly different shades of blue depending on the surrounding lights, drifting from pure light blue to almost aquamarine-like tones. And that's what raised questions from St. Martin marketing team when they watched my initial impressions video. They were concerned that the blue dial doesn't exactly look as it should be. So keep it in mind, this stunning dial can play slight color tricks on you. However, to settle this once and for all, I decided to compare this dial to the best baseline of blue color I could find in nature, the blue sky. So now you can see for yourself the colors of this dial and compare it to other colors of nature. Right, I can really talk about this dial for a while, but hopefully the pictures speak for themselves. We have here applied our markers and applied St. Martin logo, familiar set of hands that St. Martin seems to be using on a few of their recent models. And I like the 6 o'clock position of the date window, and the date wheel color matches the dial, so no corners cut here. And of course, it is time to test the lume. To be perfectly honest, not the strongest lume I've seen on St. Martin watches. It is consistent and arguably sufficient for this style of watch. However, I've seen better, so there is potentially some room for improvement here. We already spoke about this movement earlier, so I only wanted to follow up on my promise from the initial impressions video and put this watch on the time grapher. We have here very decent readings, well within tolerances of this Miyota 9015 caliber. I am glad that St. Martin finally turned to this movement. It is more expensive than Seiko NH35, however, not by much. And as far as reliability, build quality and reputation for that matter, I prefer this Miyota movement to, let's say, PT5000, which has very similar characteristics and performance and actually costs about the same. As for the bracelet, it is a new bracelet and it is excellent. It is a solid stainless steel bracelet, the end-links are sculpted to fit the lugs perfectly. I like how the end-links are slightly recessed between the lugs, allowing for a shorter distance between the protruding end-links, and as such a more comfortable wrist fit. I think Rolex kinda do something similar. Finishing is also very good, with chamfers on the sides of the links as well as on a slightly protruding middle parts, giving this bracelet a sharp and elegant look. Now, talking about sharp, there is one thing that I need to mention here, and it is a fairly sharp edges of the links, especially on the facets between the links. It does not affect wearability. In fact, the bracelet is very comfortable. However, it would have been better if these edges were slightly smoother for a more refined feel. And we of course have screws connecting the links here, as we would expect on a premium St. Martin watch. And we have a new clasp with redesigned on-the-fly adjustment mechanism. Current on-the-fly adjustment clasp is very good, however, this new one offers a couple of points of refinement. So for example, this clasp is about 1 mm shorter than the current one. Also, we don't have any screws on the sides of this clasp, giving us a cleaner look. Looking at the price and comparing it to prices of other macro brands that offer original design with similar level of refinement coupled with Miyota 9000 movement, well, this San Martin then looks like a steal of a deal, coming in about $200 to $300 cheaper. And taking into account that San Martin will be bringing the price of this watch during the 11/11 sale very close to $300 mark, well, to me, it makes this watch pretty much untouchable in this price segment. What are your thoughts? Do we have here the best go anywhere, do anything watch? Well, do share with us in the comments. And for more great value watches, do check out my playlist. I'll put it on the screen somewhere around here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.